Now, looking at the work they have put in the industry so far, if you were asked 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that the industry will still be here at where we are, maybe when I use the word still be here, it kind of already affects your answer. But did you see the industry? Did you think the industry was going to be at this stage or further?
Man, are you kidding me? We are 10 years late for what I had in mind. Absolutely. It's a disaster.
Such a pleasure to have you here.
Nice one, bro. Nice one.
I mean, it's been a long time coming. And I have all of this. You're such a busy man.
Bro, like they say, wait till man will do, you get.
In Cameroon, you have to put your heads down anyway.
Yeah.
You need to be in all of the places.
Tough terrain. You have to make sure that you I mean, if you're trying to do something worth the while, you have to really, really be hands-on and be busy, basically.
Right. I think if there was one of the greatest superpowers that Cameroonians will really appreciate is to be omnipresent, to be everywhere at the same time.
That would be necessary. That would be very necessary because
it's such a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a tough place to do certain kind of things and have certain kind of aspirations.
Right.
You have to really be locked in.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're one of those people I want to call an unsung hero in the Cameroon entertainment industry. Let's not even navigate through the tech and other stuff a little bit, but let's talk about you before. In fact, just tell us about you a little in a nutshell.
Well, I mean, again, like they say in Pidgin, now the remaining one this. I mean, Nyambi Edwin, I'm an entrepreneur. Basically, I don't think there's much else to add to that, except for the fact that I have 2 lanes of activity,
right,
which are in tech,
right,
basically, and in music and in the entertainment industry, basically. So
right.
I have 2 companies that serve these 2 areas.
Yeah.
For I think almost the same amount of time. I have been back in this country for about 12, 13 years.
Right.
I moved back. I had a degree in media engineering from Denmark.
Wow.
And I worked there for a while. And then I think that I saw what was happening in Africa way back in 2007. And I was like, I think that it's worth the while to actually take that leap of faith and come back here and try to move with the wave that I believe is...
Right.
You can see it bubbling now.
Right.
So I kind of saw that happening, and I said, let me take the leap of faith. I'm an adventurous guy, man. I really like taking.
Definitely.
I've been taking a lot of risks.
Definitely.
But as it goes, age catches up with you sometimes, and then you hope that in your youth you manage to set a couple of things so that right about now,
right,
it's supposed to catch, you get. So that's where we are right now. So I do music under the moniker CFX, like you said.
Yeah.
A music producer,
right,
songwriter,
right.
A&R,
right, songs,
management. Oh yeah, that's actually one of my biggest passions is writing. But I produce. I'm an instrumentist. I've done everything in music, brother. Let me not lie. From you get. But now in tech, I am a software developer, but I really don't even focus too much on that part. I am an entrepreneur.
Right.
We build products and we sell products. We sell software. So that's what we do under another company I own called Logics Systems. So, yeah.
Do you think that those kind of stuff, being a music producer, I mean, being the entertainment industry and being the tech, is that overbearing? Sometimes could that be overbearing?
It would be. But I believe that I find the common ground in an odd way. I have the common ground for both of them because they necessitate, they require the same ingredients, more or less. Making music is like building blocks. You get building blocks. You have to be creative, solve a problem on the market somehow, and then you have to market that product that you have created, whether in music or in tech. So I see them like that. Tech, you have to be extremely creative. It's not, people don't classify it under the creative industries, but it's very much so because you have to have an inspiration.
Right.
You have to attack it, produce something. then you have to put it on the market. And why not follow it up? So to me, it's pretty much the same thing. I use the same skill set, more or less.
Right.
Yeah.
You are in Denmark.
Yes.
You did your degree program.
Yeah.
In
media engineering.
Media engineering.
Yes.
And I think like in an environment or in a space where the young people are trying to go use the streams, the rivers, the Mediterranean to cross their way to other parts of the country to they call it greener pastures and what like that.
Yeah.
What would push another young guy to go study and come back to an environment that is quoted as an environment where people are running from?
You're bringing that topic up is actually something for which I have a very strong opinion, and we're not going to spend all the time talking about it here, but I don't get it. I absolutely don't. I think that is a serious lack of information about what is here in Africa. And I'm not saying it from that cliche perspective like, Africa is the future. That's not what it's about. Like, Africa is really the future. Like, literally, in every sense.
Right.
If you study every economic metric that the World Bank publishes, the World Economic Forum publishes, any international organization is telling you that everything is shifting to Africa.
Right.
So I think that we have guys who are just, I'm not blaming anybody for doing it because at the end of the day, people have their needs, they have their hopes and aspirations.
Facts.
And they go for them.
Facts.
But I believe that whichever authority or even us as individuals at the family level, we should really try to find out what is causing people to go somewhere, whereas money is coming here.
Right.
Investors are coming here. Volkswagen just opened a factory in Rwanda. They have already produced a car. There are Volkswagen cars being produced in Rwanda. In the next 10 years, it's going to be Teslas. You get etc., etc. Africa is the market of markets.
Right.
In the last 200 years, Africa is the remaining market of the world. It's the remaining market. It's the market where people don't have Lamborghinis. People don't have Teslas. People don't have... Not everybody has an iPhone 14. There's everything to sell to everybody in Africa.
Exactly.
So it's here. We need to get that education. So as much as I don't get it, I can't blame anybody. You feel me?
You think you actually just blame that on lack of information or the right information? Probably,
the right information. We need to be told because I believe we're age mates more or less.
Right.
Not to add you too many years, but but I think that we grew up knowing that Africa is a land of formerly colonized savages, right?
Exactly.
So what else are you going to do but want to escape?
Exactly.
Whereas the people who are telling us that we are formerly
keep coming in
savages, they keep coming with heavy money for us. So you just need to put two and two together.
Right. You came into the country and it's 2007.
More or less,
Late
2007, 2008,
Right. Between that time, there is music happening in Cameroon, but the urban industry is not really happening.
Yes. Oh, that's perfect that you put it that way because I believe that what we have now, I saw it really from the jump. It
wasn't happening
because
at all.
What's happening in 2007. I'm a Yaoundé guy. I was born and raised in Yaoundé. I've just relocated ever since I moved back to the country. I've been living out of Yaoundé, but I'm a Yaoundé child.
Right.
Lycée Bilen d'application from 1 to 5. Everything. So I saw
the hardcore Yaoundé.
Exactly. So that urban revolution you're talking about, I saw it start even before 2007. I saw it in the early 90s.
Okay.
So with guys like Krutal, who back in the day we used to call DJ Polo because he was also living abroad.
Okay.
He's a big bro that moved back in the same way.
Right.
So we saw the movement at the Yaoundé level. There was stuff happening in Douala as well.
Right.
So that the early groups in urban, there were spots around here in Bastos. There was a spot called African Logic where they used to have shows every weekend.
That's before 2000.
This is like in the 90s, bro.
Oh,
this
for
is
real?
the 90s. So Krota was at the core of all of that. So people really need to respect him because they used to call him DJ Polo. Okay. And I remember when I was in Form 4, bro, this is 20-something odd years ago, 24, 5 years ago. And a guy came to me we used to just write raps. You know,
Right.
in the mid-90s, that is gangster rap, Snoop Dogg,
Right,
Dr.
right.
Dre.
Just following the
everybody-
American pattern.
Exactly. There was nothing else now.
Right.
I mean, Cote d'Ivoire had already had some stuff that used to play on TV. There were some rap acts from there.
Okay.
The urban industry was picking up there, and we'll get to that at some point in this conversation. But I remember one day that a guy came up to me and said, "Hey, Nyambi, do you know what they call a sampler?"
Okay.
It's like, no. What's a sampler? I remember the guy very well. His name is Luke Tendo. He was a year behind us, but we're all the urban guys in,
Right.
in the lycée, you get.
Right.
So Luke was like, there's a guy in Bastos called DJ Polo, and he has a machine that when you press, a drum sound comes out.
Right.
I was like, get the fuck out of here. So, you know, that's the
Exactly.
inception of me becoming a music producer about 10 years later.
Right.
It was there. So Crotal has always been on my mind from knowing that there is a guy who has a machine that you press and it makes poof, and another sound makes pa
Right.
from 1994,
Right.
95.
Right.
Now, fast forward to your question. Sorry for that detour, but I
No,
just wanted to drop that
I
historical
think I like the
dime.
details. It's very important.
Yeah, so you had groups like Negrissim, Accent Grave, Uma CVM.
And they were all in Yaoundé.
They were all Yaoundé groups. There were groups in Douala, but I'm not a Douala guy, so I
Right.
can't speak on that.
Right.
You had guys who were really active. So the movement, the urban movement, is way before 2007.
Right.
To be honest, and of course, I also cannot speak on Bamenda. I was not a very frequent Bamenda guy,
Right.
but I know that there are also some OGs out there who were also doing some things. You get, so eventually, so that has been way before this 2007 when I just come back. But when I come back, it's really more of a normalized industry now. You get, especially with what's happening in Nigeria. P Square have blown up. Two Face has blown up. Downfall Drivers have blown up.
Like the big deal
African
then.
China is making noise. I didn't know who these guys were because I was in Europe and I was doing jazz and I was doing soul music. I was not doing
Was
like
nothing
African
Afro,
pop. No, I
right.
was doing Afro, but you know, Afro
okay,
jazz.
Okay, Afro jazz.
Richard Bona,
Right.
Lokwa Kanza, West
yeah.
Madiko. I was doing fusion music. So I wasn't looking at P Square. I was like, busybody, okay. Like,
Right.
not my cup of tea,
Right.
honestly. You know, but on coming back, I realized that this is a whole setup. It's an industry. There is huge demand.
Right.
And the Nigerians were trying to supply, and, you know, the rest is history. So 2007, Cameroon, you know, Kopo, you know,
Right.
Ashale, God rest his
Right.
soul. You know, Sydney.
Right.
Right?
Sydney, of course.
Sydney, Muna's Foundation was
Right.
setting up
It was-
at
yeah,
the time
begin
that I
to-
came. So these were the popular ones, the ones that were bubbling underground. You know, Daddy Black.
Right.
Daddy Black was already
Daddy
doing
Black
great.
has been there from.
Oh yeah,
For real.
look, Daddy Black, Yomo. Yeah, I'm talking about Yaoundé.
Right.
Talk
right.
about Yaoundé. I
Of
can't
course.
speak on any other city really.
Right.
Daddy Black, as far back as 2007, he was already doing shows at Hotel Printania. And Yomo was already doing shows. He had a group with another guy. His name escapes my mind. They had a soul music group. So one thing I can say is it was really pure music. Guys were trying to do music. So the references were really way up there.
there.
It's like Daddy Black, the first time I met him, you know, Bushfalla vibes, and everybody already has a complex when they see you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what kind of music do you do? Daddy Black's answer, I'll never forget. He was like, me, I need check anything if no be that kind Jimi Hendrix. I was like, okay, okay. You know, Jimi Hendrix is like the greatest guitarist that ever lived. I'm like, let me find out. You get like, okay, bro. So they were really like checking for the top of the line, historically great artists.
Right.
And I was like, okay, that's what's up. If somebody is telling him about Jimi Hendrix, then
it's
that's
a
the world
good
I'm
deal.
coming
That's
from as well.
reference. That's perfect.
Yes, yes. So that's what was happening around 2007. Long answer, but I hope.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Crazy.
So that's a bit what I jumped into.
Right.
You know, yeah. Music. It wasn't Music Star. It was Star de Demain.
Okay.
Ashale had just won.
Right.
You know, young guy, and I remember my mother calling me. I was, in the living room with my parents, went with them, and then my mother was like, Edwin, don't you like this guy that is singing? It was Ashale. I was like, I beg, calling me myself.
Right.
But I was a bit of a snob too.
Right.
I'm not going to lie, because I was coming from another world. I was working with
I know what you mean.
soul music, funk bands, jazz,
right,
electronic music, hip hop,
right,
like different things. So the Afro pop world was not really what I was into.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you finally there you are in Cameroon. You have met all of these amazing people.
Yeah.
When did you have the conviction that you needed to actually start making your own prints as far as building the industry is concerned?
No, that's,
because I think that people who actually really contributed to the what we have now as an industry, even though the system is not really set yet all these years later on, and you're one of these people. What really convinced you that, hey, let me put my footprint somewhere?
Bro, I think it's just the passion, because at the end of the day, I always wanted to do music professionally.
Okay.
I studied media engineering. I love it. I practice it every day of my life. But I was really hoping that I'm going to be able to be that guy who spends 24 hours in the studio for the rest of his life making music. That's what I had dreamt of.
That's some crazy passion.
Back then, of course. Yes, I'm not going to lie. Anybody that knows me is going to tell you that, there are a few things that broke me, as we say, that really break me down, like music does. So it was just a matter of finding people to do it with. But it was already a sure thing that I'm going to have to do something about this music business in Cameroon.
Right.
So I started working with a couple of guys. There's a guy, a friend of mine, I won't say his name for some reasons, but I started working with him. He's just an old friend that we were, playing around with music before I ever traveled. So this is in the late 90s, 99, 98, 99.
Right.
When I just was in university,
right,
hustling to fall bush.
Right.
So when I came back, I was like, hey, so what have you been up to? He played me some of his music that he was doing. I'm not going to call his name because I want to say that he wasn't really doing anything interesting, to be honest. And I said, let me take a chance on this guy. I think it was more of an emotional decision. So I jumped into it. But my first project that I did when I came back to Cameroon, I told him, okay, come. I hear your voice. I see what you're doing. Let's do a project. And I told him, I said, my goal is to win the Kora Award with this project. Nothing else. I remember, because at the time there was the Kora Awards. I think you remember that.
Of course.
That was the reference at the time. I was like, nothing less. Let's do the Kora Awards. So you can already imagine the sound I had in mind. So it was Afro fusion, not Afro pop. So I started working with this guy, introduced him to Fela Kuti. I think he already knew some Fela, but I was like, that's what we're going to do. That's the kind of vibe we're going to bring. Mix it up, mash it up, but we're going to do something like that. So we worked on the project for like a year, Come back from Europe, you're a bit naive. You don't really know how things work, and you're just depleting your funds. I think that so many people have made that mistake, like me.
A lot.
Mistake in quotes, because I think it's just a learning curve at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, needless to say, it didn't work out. The album was never released, etc. But in the process of working with this guy, he used to go back to Bonas, with the demos, and guys were like, who is this guy? What the hell did he do the kind of music for Yaoundé? Una. So guys started coming, but I was very discreet. Where I was staying, I was like, don't bring anybody to my house. Let me know if I want to work with him.
Right.
So Daddy Black shows up, and I do a couple of songs with him. He takes them back to Bonas, plays it to guys. Guys are like, oh
no
my God.
way.
Because I always have been doing, you would get this over and over, and I think you know me a little bit. You know that I'm not really an Afro pop guy. I'm an Afro fusion guy. I'm a jazz fusion guy. So I was always doing things that guys didn't even bother to think about, because it's like, who is going to do it? Who is going to produce that? Exactly. I think the only people who were really like an Afrofusion powerhouse per se in Yaoundé at the time was Makaz, and they were not considered very urban.
Right.
They were really more Afro jazz.
Okay.
But I could bring that urban vibe because at the base, I'm a hip hop producer. That's my base in music. It's
Hip hop?
pure hip hop.
Really?
Dr. Dre, DJ Premier.
Right.
Like, that's
Right.
my base. Raw,
Right.
old school, OG hip hop.
Right.
Yes. So I really mastered the urban stuff, and I'm, as an African, you know, as a big Richard Bona fan,
Right.
I play bass, so you know, I could bring a real Afro jazz, an Afro beat, as in Fela Kuti vibe, to an urban sound, or vice versa, and create something that the young people could still relate to, but the old people could still relate to. So that was my vision all along. You get now. So it was just a matter of time. So with time, I was working on the local guys in Yaoundé, Daddy Black, Yomo, not too many. I've always been
very picky about who you are.
I mean, I don't want to say picky, but is that everything requires a lot of energy.
Right.
The way I work, it needs
Facts.
a lot of energy.
Facts.
So you can't really just be that studio
Right.
that
Right.
everybody comes and it's like, Dima, I don't finish my beat.
Which was
One-
a really big
one
norm
shoot the
back in
video,
the day.
one
You
shoot-
go to the studio and the
Yeah.
place is so crowded.
Exactly.
Back in the day.
You go and guys are back to back doing beats on the spot. Guys are recording. I saw it. I actually saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which was insane back then.
I mean, I was happy for guys making their couple of, 20K, 30K a beat.
Right.
I know one guy, I'm not going to call his name. I saw him get like 90K in one day. I say, very fair. That's what they think. I said, but that's what's up. Me, I'm a hustler. I'm a businessman. So I have to respect that. But
Right.
it was just not my MO, you get now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, so I just had to do it, just a matter of time. Then
Right.
with time I moved to Boya, I guess.
Okay.
That's where the next chapter of the story.
Right.
Start.
So basically, you are having right now. Let's not, before we even visit that, I think by the time you are reaching Boya, there are some artists that have finally surfaced.
Absolutely.
You finally surfaced
Yes,
and stuff like that.
Yes.
Who are some of the people and projects that you have worked on in Cameroon so far? Because
so far,
because you are one of those producers. It's such a big deal now for people to make their signatures on stuff so loud.
Yes.
Stuff by producers and stuff is so
yeah,
loud.
you have to have the tag. Yeah, it's just a general culture all over the world, though.
It is. But I don't know if you kind of put you are resonating your signatures like that on sound. You want to throw more light on some of the projects of people you've worked with?
I mean, I not in any chronological order, but I've worked with Salatiel. I know Salatiel from way back, like 2008 when I moved to Boya.
Okay.
I know. So at the time he wasn't even producing. He was literally just learning how to produce.
Okay.
At a studio called M1.
M1, of course.
Emil Ngumba, who was his mentor and was teaching him how to produce, and he was working there.
Right. You were producing already by then?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have my first studio was in 2003 in Denmark. So I had a record label and a clothing line in 2003 in Denmark. So I wasn't just coming like that. I had already had. In fact, I'm going to slide you one of the pictures that my dad sent me a picture.
Okay.
And the date is on the picture. I'll send it to you.
All right.
Maybe you can show the
awesome.
people. Yeah. I was sitting
that.
in my studio in Denmark that I had in 2003. So yeah, I mean, when I was abroad, I had one goal, and it was to own a studio.
Okay.
I even set up my studio, and for 1 week I could not play a sound because I didn't understand how the equipment was connected. But I was like, "Nah, the studio, this most start make music now."
Right.
So yeah, that's way back. So I came to Cameroon already what I could call a professional and well experienced producer, very experienced, different genres, different styles. So when I came to Boya, it was in that capacity.
Okay.
How do I go to Boya? Daddy Black, who I worked on, goes to Boya. They're moving up and down. It's bubbling in Boya more or less. So Daddy Black, who I've worked with, is one of the people, to answer your question.
Right.
He calls me and says, "Hey, there is a guy that wants to work with you. His name is Doctor. His name is Slee. At the time, they used to call him Slee. So he says, Slee, that's some reggae artist, or that's some artist where he get for work with you." And Slee was doing well for himself, so he could afford me because, I wasn't I was expensive for the time.
Right.
Also because of what I was doing. So,
Right.
you know, we're going to play live instruments. We're going to take time. We're going to
Exactly.
write the song 3 times.
Right.
We're going to record 10 times. We're going to mix it 4 times. You know, I was doing the most, like they
Right.
say. So I'm like, okay, fine. If you can pay me, that's cool. So I go out to Boya. And Daddy Black has already set up a meeting between me and Slee.
Mm-hmm.
Slee comes, and the same day we agree for me to work on a few tracks with him. And then for that, I'm like, fine, if you can finance my stay in Boya, let's go. So that's how I partly what took me to Boya. The second part was that I had a cousin who is very known in the film industry called Ancestor.
Yeah.
Emil.
Okay.
Who is one of the legendary director of photography in Cameroon, and he was based in Boya, also very much at the base of the film industry,
Right.
widely respected. And he was out there, so I was like, he was always keeping me in the loop of what's happening in Boya. So that's how I went to Boya, partly to merge with his efforts and his network. He was working with some guys. But, so, I mean, Salatiel from as far back as 2008, even before he was a producer, but he was already a very renowned and in-demand writer.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
He was a writer and musician, piano and writing.
Right.
But he was learning production.
Right.
I mean, Leo was not in the picture, but eventually I worked with him when he got signed to Alpha Beta and later on. You know, Blanche Bailey. I don't know if you want me to tell you the songs I've done with them, but...
Okay. That would be awesome, but I think one of the most renowned of them is Leo's album, which is
obviously
such a big deal, which we'll come to, which I really want us to talk about.
But yeah, I mean, so I like, you have Steven's Music, basically the whole label. I think that we're one of the people who kicked off Daphne's career on her first album. I worked on about 6 tracks on Daphne's first album.
What?
She literally stayed with me for 3 months before like her first album was released. So I worked. Can
you imagine that?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, none of the songs were released as singles, but you know, they were on the album.
Right.
I have about 6 tracks.
Here to Stay, the album.
Here to Stay, yes.
Right.
I even titled that album.
Oh, for real?
Yes, yes.
That was like a prophecy, though. Did the heavens reveal something to you? Because I've never understood why
we had a song.
Album was Here to Stay.
We had a song called Here to Stay.
Yes,
but it didn't make it to the album. But they retained the title. I don't know if you get. Yeah,
it's crazy.
We did a demo of a song that I wrote called Here to Stay. It didn't make it to the album, but the title interested Uncle T and Fon, so they retained it as the title. Yeah, shout out to those guys. They're like,
came to stay.
I have a great relationship with Stevens Music. I've worked with every artist on the Stevens Music roster. Even helped them sign some new artists and stuff. So it's been great with them.
I've literally done AR too.
Yes, I think that's one of my really strong suits. I think that most of the time, when I'm producing a song, 50% of my real work is really A&R. It's not actually the production, because you know, you make decisions, and pop needs a lot of A&R, not so much Afro jazz, but pop needs a lot of A&R decision making. So the choice of certain things that can really move the needle left or right, very important. Yeah,
you have done so much work. And I mean, at the beginning of the conversation, I was like, you're an unsung hero in the industry, because you really are. I don't think that there have been conversations around like, and then those are the kind of things that really get me a little bit angry, if I must use that term, about our entertainment industry, because those who deserve celebration are not being celebrated, they're not being talked about. Credit is not given in the right places, but there's lots of complaint.
Yeah, man. I mean...
Yeah, there's a lot of complaint. But now, looking at the work that you have put in the industry so far, if you were asked 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that the industry will still be here at where we are, maybe when I use the word still be here, it kind of already affects your answer, but did you see the industry? Did you think the industry was going to be at this stage or further?
Man, are you kidding me? We are 10 years late for what I had in mind. Absolutely. It's a disaster. Personally, that's how I feel it, even financially. So I can't sit here and lie to you that, you know, it's going well. It's not going well. A lot of effort has been wasted. A lot of projects, music, money, so much as opportunities, contacts, connections. To me, it's a bloodbath. That's my honest opinion. It's a complete bloodbath.
Do you think that the attention do you think that people are giving attention to the real causes, the root causes of
I
what is affecting
mean,
the industry? For example, top on
yeah,
the list right
yeah.
now is 80-20, that there's not enough support from Cameroonians, and that if we played 80% Cameroon music,